50 million years ago roamed two animals next to the Great Tethys Sea in what is now known as the Middle East. These two animals were Pakicetus and Indohyus. These were the two earliest whales that we know of. But how did something the same size as a small family lapdog get to the size of the greatest animal that we know of on planet Earth?
We will begin to reconstruct some of the individual adaptations taken to go from a wolf-like terrestrial hunter to the most diverse group of mammals ever to have existed.
Indohyus was a speculated relative of the early whales. It was 80 centimetres long, had a fox face and deer-like hooves. It was an artiodactyl, meaning it was an even-toed mammal.
It lived along the shores of the Tethys Sea, browsing on aquatic vegetation and small fish. Pakicetus, however, is a definite whale relative. This animal was the first archaeocete, a 2-metre-long terrestrial wolf-like animal with even-toed hooves and eyes on top of the skull. This allowed the animal to still search for prey while swimming, keeping a low profile. Convergent evolution with crocodiles.
Looking back at the very early land-dwelling mammals, like Pakicetus, we can tell exactly where they lived and what they ate. We know that because of the isotopes within their teeth. It shows quite clearly that they were carnivorous. With the landscape that they were in, it was most likely that they would be eating fish. Therefore, they were adapting to their marine environment along the Tethys Sea shoreline.
Their relation to modern-day cetaceans is confirmed with the Ossicular Chain in the middle ear. Due to physical constraints put on a body underwater, the ear adapted quickly. The stapes is lightly built, whereas the incus was enlarged and twisted slightly, indicative of an aquatic lifestyle. This is the midway point between artiodactyls and cetaceans. The changing incus subsequently changed the size of the malleus. It became bulkier due to ossification. This is showing plesiomorphic and derived characteristics, showing each bone evolving as an independent unit. This makes sense looking at their origin in the pharyngeal arches, the stapes from the hyoid arch, and the Incudo-Mallear Complex from the mandibular arch. This mosaic of characteristics allows for hearing above and below water.
Ambulocetids was a 3-metre-long relative of Pakicetus. It had shorter arms and therefore probably spent more time in water and was becoming far more adapted to the marine environment.
They had 31 vertebrae as opposed to the common mammalian 26. It had 4 fused vertebrae around the pelvis, convergent with seals. This allowed powerful hamstrings to drive short legs for strong paddling.
As well as that, in Ambulocetids, the radius and ulna are locked. They can't spin, and that means they can't clench their fists. Additionally, the 5 long digits on each finger had flanges between the bones. This probably means that they had webbed feet, and therefore they were able to swim far more efficiently.
Webbing is retained when BMPs fail to decrease FGF4 and 8. Therefore, in development, the cells of the interdigit membranes do not commence apoptosis. The membrane therefore remains, and the ultimate result, a fin. In modern-day cetaceans, the hind limb bud is reabsorbed into the fetus after week 5 of development. In the front limb, FGF8 is expressed, therefore protein hand2 is expressed in the anterior section of the limb, but suppressed in the posterior. SHH is expressed, and the limb continues to form. In the hind limb, hand2 is not suppressed in the posterior. The maintenance of the limb bud therefore halts entirely. The residual bones are visible in adult extant cetaceans as small floating limbs. This is a selective process. Starting in Ambulocetids, the walking whale had learned how to swim.
This is Durodon, one of the more marine-adapted whales. It has a post-pelvic spherical vertebra, meaning the tail behind it can get really good leverage for as much force as possible, potentially seeing the evolution of the first fluke. A few million years later, and all evidence of legs is now completely gone. The stumps where they were have blended in with the streamlined shape of Basilosaurus itself. Basilosaurus shows perfect evidence of the nares going from the tip of the snout itself, moving backwards across the head back to the blowhole position where we know today.
35 million years ago, and we see the rise of the Neocetaceans, from Tokaharia to Etioscetus to Balaenoptera. This is the rise of the most diverse group of mammals on Earth. They have made the complete transition to the ocean, yet they still adapt further. Their large size means they can hold onto heat when they dive. They can additionally dive for longer, as their red blood cells can absorb 75% of their required oxygen. As well as that, the blue whale lungs can hold 5,000 litres of air, meaning they can dive for up to 90 minutes.
However, this is still a patchy story with a lot of evidence still to be found.
From Pakicetus hunting in rivers to Ambulocetids developing webbed digits, Durodon losing its hind limbs and Basilosaurus mastering the marine lifestyle.
These are but some of the adaptations cetaceans have taken to make that transition from land to open ocean.